Coming up, award nomination for Boden Fogou, a new perspective at Corfe Castle, and surprise X-ray discoveries reveal an ancient tool. Welcome to Time Team News, your monthly look at archaeological news and discoveries from Britain and across the globe. Well, it's our final show of the year, and if you enjoy it, please do subscribe to make sure that you catch future episodes. First up, we had a fantastic response to King Arthur's Hall in the last show, so we'll be keeping an eye on that project as it develops. James Gossip of Cornwall Archaeological Unit is no stranger to Time Team. You may remember him as the site director of our first new Time Team dig filmed in 2021.
Welcome to Cornwall and to a new look Time Team.
Together, we investigated Boden Fogou on the Lizard Peninsula, a type of mysterious Iron Age subterranean structure distinct to this part of West Cornwall, whose exact purpose remains hotly debated. Boden Fogou is back in the news as the project team, Meneage Archaeology Group, have just been nominated for Research Project of the Year at the current Archaeology Awards 2025.
Welcome to Boden. This is where Time Team had their really successful relaunch a couple of years ago. Got some of the team behind us, and we'd love you to vote for the current Archaeology Awards 2025 Research Project of the Year.
Time Team's own Matt Bear-Clark has been working with them and returned to Boden this year to witness an exciting development.
There's a buzz of excitement this morning on the Lizard Peninsula, and I've come along to see what it's all about. Boden Fogou, near the Helford River, is getting a makeover, giving a sense of how it might have looked back in the Iron Age, over 2,000 years ago.
Well, ever since we excavated when we started excavating in 2003, we found part of this big projecting stone down in the corner at the end of this main passageway, which we suspected was a big fallen rock, subsequently turned into what we thought must have been one of the lintels, the capping stones of the passage. So we thought it'd be a great idea to set off the entranceway into the main passage with that lintel, put it back in place, which is what we've done this morning with the help of Chris and the digger. So it's a bit of gentle reconstruction, really. It now gives us a real sense, I think, of what this entranceway would have looked like into the Fugu. Yeah, it just makes it even more of a special monument, really.
And we've got Bear with us now. Hi Bear, how are you doing?
Hello.
Great to see you. Now, Matt, you were there when the lintel went back in. That must have been a great experience.
We got told it was happening, so we rushed down to Boden the next morning, and it glided gently back into place and just sat there like it was always supposed to. Well, it was supposed to be there, and it really sets the site off. You really get a sense of the tunnel quality that the Fugu would have had just from the one stone back in place. It does make me wonder where all the others are.
I think they've all been reused on buildings and things, haven't they? Because they're pretty hefty stones, so quite useful for buildings.
There's a few gateposts in the nearby area that match the same building material and size as the lintel. So there is a thought that some of them might be missing stones.
That's another project for someone to do there, isn't it? To track them down. Matt, really lovely to catch up with you. and I look forward to, well, we'll see you on an excavation sometime soon. Meneage Archaeology Group is a voluntary group that relies on support to keep going. If you wish to support their stellar work with a donation, please do so by visiting the link below. But what do you think the Fugu was used for? As always, let us know in the comments below. And remember to get your votes in for the 2025 Current Archaeology Awards. And we should point out that there are many other inspiring projects out there that are well deserving of praise. Other nominees in the Research Project of the Year category include the Roman tile kiln at Minety, which we featured back in August with another Time Team friend, Neil Holbrook of Cotswold Archaeology. Good luck to all, and you can vote using the links below. Earlier this year, we dropped in on archaeology students from the University of Leicester at their field school, excavating a Roman villa in Leicestershire. The students got stuck in, honing a range of skills from trolling techniques and recording to finds processing and identification. We're now joining them again, this time back in the lab, to find out what happens next in the post-excavation process.
So Jeremy, it's been 6 months since that field work on our Roman villa complex, and today we're going to work with the students on updating them on the post-ex process.
Yeah, that's right. We've completed the excavations, we've had a chance to start looking at the finds and other materials and to review the evidence that we discovered.
We think the students did a really good job of unpicking all this information.
They did a great job because they've only got a comparatively short period of time to do the excavation. We asked them to look at 4 different areas and they excavated the lot, and particularly working in the area of the villa buildings themselves, there was a lot of material to remove in order for us to really unpick that building.
And in your fieldwork module, they've continued to work on the post-excavation side of things, haven't they?
That's right. I mean, we're very keen that the students don't see excavation in isolation, that they understand the whole process of what happens to the material they excavate and get to interpret what they found. So what we're working on in the module is taking them through all the records we made on site so they can reconstruct the sequence of events and look at the finds and think about how we date activity and what the finds can tell us from the basis of what they themselves have dug.
Yeah, and in that session that we're having today, they're going to be looking at, in some detail, at the pottery evidence and some of the wall plaster from the site, aren't they?
Yes, we've got a range of material for them to look at, and what we want to do is take them through thinking about how we look at the pottery and other material, how that can help us to date activity, but what other things it might tell us about the nature of life on the site.
As well as identifying pottery and other small finds, the students have been having a go at using the flotation tank.
Thank you very much, Will. It's been a pleasure to have a chance to try out some of the post-excavation stuff with you, as well as the excavation stuff. I still think I prefer the excavation stuff, but it's been a pleasure nonetheless.
Thank you. It's been great to have you down here.
And we'll be sharing the full story of that dig in 2025. This month's Book of the Month is X Marks the Spot, An Adventurous History of Archaeology by Michael Scott. The book, which has been enjoying rave reviews, captures the thrill and excitement of some of the most groundbreaking archaeological discoveries in history. It's accessible and engaging, but academically underpinned too. Michael is Professor of Classics and Ancient History at the University of Warwick, and we're pleased to have him with us here today. Hi Michael, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much, Dani, for having me.
So tell us about your book. What was it that inspired you to write it?
Well, X marks the spot for those who are Indiana Jones fans. And I suspect there might be quite a few who follow Time Team might well recognize the quote, X marks the spot from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when he is, for once, teaching archaeology in his university position, and he's there talking to his students, and he says fundamentally that X never, ever marks the spot in archaeology. And I grew up with Indiana Jones. He was a massive inspiration for me. And I think if people think of archaeology, they either think of Indiana Jones or they think, well, they probably think of Time Team, don't they? I mean, kind of it's one or the other, kind of at either end of the spectrum. And this book is about kind of where's the reality? Where's the real story of archaeology? And particularly not just of what archaeology is, but actually how archaeology has developed as a discipline really over the last sort of 200 years since the beginning of the 19th century, when people really started to talk about archaeology as a thing. And so X Marks the Spot is a kind of life story, if you like, of the development of archaeology. And it's told through 8 stories of amazing and extraordinary discoveries that have been made by different people in different places around the world through that 200 or so years. And it brings us from the beginning of the 19th century. The first story is the discovery of the Rosetta Stone in Egypt back in 1799, right the way through to 2023 and ongoing excavations that are taking place right now. And in those 8 stories, what I hope we get is a sense on the one hand of some pretty Indiana Jones-esque narratives, and adventures, but also kind of really bring to the fore the heroic realities of archaeology, where actually discovery isn't that zip into a site, immediately find the crucial thing you're after, and then leave again in the Indiana Jones model, normally destroying the archaeological site that he's been in. Indiana Jones in some ways is the worst possible model for archaeology. And actually positing and thinking about what heroic archaeology looks like when it's that patient, careful, thoughtful investigation and continual effort over huge periods of time to be able to uncover the extraordinary reality that the remains in the ground are seeking, to tell us. And by the time we get to the end, I hope that not only do we have a sense of kind of what archaeology is, we also have a better sense of who archaeologists are, who the discoverers are. And if there's one other factor that I hope the book brings to the table, it's that what we discover about the past is, in fact, always a conscious choice. We need to be much more aware of that what we choose to look for in our past is always a conscious choice, normally informed by the needs and interests of our present.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to have a chat with you.
And X Marks the Spot is available now via Hodder Press. Definitely one for your Christmas list. From X Marks the Spot to X-rays. As I've often said on this show, some of the best discoveries are often made during post-excavation analysis. And here's a great example. The team at Bournemouth University's Archaeological unit made a surprise discovery when analysing artefacts from the collection at Hengistbury Head near Christchurch in Dorset. Detail from X-ray scans revealed that a metal object, once classified as a currency bar, is in fact an Iron Age saw blade, complete with teeth. I'm joined by Meg Russell from Bournemouth University. Hi Meg.
Hi Dani, you alright?
I'm good, thanks. Tell us what you guys have been up to.
This project came about because the curator at the Hengistbury Head Visitor Centre, Hayden Scott Pratt, came to us, myself, Dr. Heather Tamminen and Will Odling from Bournemouth University, to start to look at their collection at Hengistbury Head. This archive contains all of the different artefacts from many different excavations over the last few decades. And we thought we would start with the metalwork. The majority of the metalwork comes from the Iron Age settlement, and it corrodes in the ground in situ, but it also corrodes once it's excavated and it's put in the archive because it oxidizes with the air and with water. It blooms around the artifact, and this can then hide the ID. So it can be really difficult to identify what these artifacts even are. And so what we need to do is be able to look at these artifacts and decide what is this? What are we looking at? And what do we need to preserve this artifact? But the other key part was X-raying, because it's non-destructive, it's quick, it's cost-effective once you have the right equipment, but it's infrequently used as part of the post-excavation process still. One artifact, though, that we always knew we were going to do on its own was the so-called currency bar from the Iron Age settlement. And currency bars are long, flat objects. They often taper off at one end. and they're often seen in southern Britain in the Iron Age, in mid to late Iron Age, actually. We call them currency bars because there's a reference to by Caesar in Gallic Wars that says that people in Britain were using iron bars as currency. And that's essentially the only reason why we call them that. Once we x-rayed them, there is a nice flat edge that we expected. And then when you look at the top edge, we saw something really interesting, and that was a series of really evenly spaced serrated teeth. And so looking at it, we think we found an Iron Age saw, but they don't exist in the same quantity as axes and chisels and other woodworking tools in this toolkit. It might be because they're very thin, so they don't survive very well. It might be because they maybe break, so they are often reused and recast into something else. But it might also be that a lot of the artifacts we are calling currency bars might not actually be currency bars. Maybe there's more saws in the Iron Age than we thought.
Did you have suspicions that the currency bar might not be a currency bar before you x-rayed it?
Do you know what? We never thought it would be anything else. You just take what people say for granted. And there are so many examples of this in archaeology. It gets called something once by one archaeologist and we just run with it. We never anticipated this to be anything different. We thought we might be able to see, okay, how was this cast? Has it been hammered? Why maybe is it manufactured in this way at the end? And so that's where we started, at the tanged end, and then just looking upwards. And like I said, it really, really poses the question of how many currency bars are really currency bars.
Does it feel daunting to be challenging an earlier identification with a new interpretation?
It's so daunting to challenge opinions, especially when they are maybe long-standing opinions or by quite important people. But that's why we need to start that conversation, because there are so many things we just take for granted in archaeology, often in prehistory in Britain, because there are so many gods of archaeology that we just take for their word as gospel. And so it is so important to be brave enough to say, actually, I think this is maybe wrong, because it's not the only example. And I think over the next few years, there are going to be many more examples of things like this happening.
Congratulations on your discovery and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dani.
Remaining in Dorset now, and the National Trust's Corfe Castle has been in the headlines this month with news of a specially constructed vantage point within the ruins of the castle known as the King's Tower, offering amazing views of the surrounding countryside. You might recognise Corfe Castle as the backdrop of Time Team's recent dig, The Secrets of Witch Farm. The castle originates from the Norman conquest, and the keep, or King's Tower, was built for William the Conqueror's son, Henry I, around AD 1107. The platform has been built to help raise funds for a major conservation project, which will involve specialist masons working from ropes and scaffolding, using similar techniques and materials to their predecessors 1,000 years ago. The incredible view from this perspective hasn't been witnessed since the castle was intentionally slighted during the English Civil War. The new viewing platform is a temporary structure and it'll only remain in place for a year, so make sure you plan a visit while you can. Coming up, a brand new episode. Time Team has joined forces with Operation Nightingale.
I'm really excited for this very early Christmas present, because normally I seem to have been doing military sites with the Time Team, but this one is completely different and it's an absolutely fabulous site full of exciting discoveries and some really strange twists. Now we're going to open up two major trenches on this particular project, one of which is looking at a cemetery site, and that's sort of what we were expecting to find. It's an Anglo-Saxon site, and so we can bring in people like Jackie and all their wonderful expertise and tell the story of those people that lived at this village in the Cotswolds in the 7th century. But the second trench is altogether confusing, and if you want to see one small site that has about 8 different opinions given to you by many archaeological specialists and not one of them turns out to be right, then that's the site for you. And the other cracking Time Team element is that traditionally for archaeology, you make that wonderful discovery at the very, very last minute, and this site delivers that perfectly. So we've got some traditional archaeological finds that we were expecting. We've got some weird and wonderful things that we really weren't expecting, but it brings the whole thing together really, really well in a single field in the Cotswolds, and hopefully it'll be something that you can really, really enjoy for your Christmas dinner.
The episode will premiere publicly worldwide on Saturday the 21st of December at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube. So make sure you clear your diary and join us for the watch along and live chat. Well, that's it for this month and for the year. Do remember to let us know what you'd like us to cover in the comments section below. Additional content from Time Team News, including 3D models and extended interviews, can be found over on Patreon. If you can't get enough of Time Team News, look out for our upcoming compilations on the way shortly. We'll be sharing some of the most memorable discoveries of 2024, plus our favourite books of the year. Thanks again for watching. Please do remember to subscribe and press that notification bell to receive all the latest updates. Have a fantastic Christmas and New Year, and I look forward to seeing you in 2025.
Join Time Team on Patreon to access exclusive 3D models, masterclasses, and behind-the-scenes insights.